My beloved child, I have held your hand through turns where you thought you would collapse. And it is precisely because I held your hand that you are still standing here today, not because you are stronger than others, nor because you are more skillful at managing things, but because I quietly placed your feet upon each stone, shielding you from rushing currents your eyes could not see. You thought there were moments when you were simply pushing a little longer, enduring one more day. But I tell you this, those very days you clenched your teeth and stepped through are the bricks I used to build a bridge, leading you to the moment I had already appointed. There were seasons when you lived like one walking through fog, hearing life call your name in cold numbers, bills, deadlines, shortages, gaps, amounts due, amounts not yet paid. You learned to check everything, count every coin, arrange every small detail, because you feared that one mistake could make everything collapse. I know the feeling when you open your wallet and your heart tightens. I know the moments when you look at an ordinary item and ask yourself, am I even allowed to need this? I know the times you forced out the words, it's okay, to reassure others, while inside you were worn thin like a rope stretched too long. You hid your sighs beneath silence, your tears behind strained smiles, your unsteadiness behind the words, I'm fine. And you thought no one understood, but I understood. I did not only see what you did, I touched what you could not say, the fear of falling behind, the fear of becoming a burden to someone, the shame of having to measure even what should have been freely enjoyed. I was there when you stood in a dark room, wondering if you had gone wrong somewhere. I was there when you stared at the ceiling, hearing the clock like a countdown, wishing life would give you a sign that things would change. My child, those signs were planted long ago. You simply could not see them yet because your hands were busy holding on to life itself. I do not blame you for being tired. I do not condemn you for moving slowly. I do not dismiss your confusion, because I know there are worries that cannot be spoken. They lodge themselves in the body like a stone, making even breath feel heavy. But I want you to hear this clearly, not with your ears, but from the deepest place of your soul. I have never left you. When you thought you were merely surviving, I was teaching you to discern the noise of fear from the invitation of faith. When you thought you were only enduring, I was refining your endurance, an endurance that does not harden you, but matures you, teaching you to stand firm while keeping your heart soft. You may have seen life as a series of closed doors, as knocks that received no answer. But I tell you, some doors do not open because you knocked wrongly, but because I am holding them for the right moment, so that when they open, you will not only receive what you asked for, but also what you truly need. You asked me for relief. I gave you healing at the root. You asked me for an escape. I opened a path. You asked me for enough. I prepared a foundation so you could enter a season no longer haunted by the word lack. Do not think I am focused only on what you hold in your hands. I am attentive to what your heart carries, because if I bring you into a new season while your heart is still imprisoned by fear, you will live like one in poverty, even when you have enough. That is why, before I change the numbers on paper, I am restoring order in your mind. Before I bring resources to your door, I am clearing away old voices that told you you were unworthy, incapable, forever stuck. I want you to understand this truth. You are not the product of lack. You are not named by debt. You are not defined by difficult months. You are my child, and that identity does not change with circumstances, just as I have made a way appear where there seemed to be none. I can also open provision where you never expected it. You have heard people speak of luck, of opportunity, of meeting the right person at the right time. And you may have thought, perhaps I am not among the favored. But I tell you this, what I do does not depend on luck. I act according to covenant, according to love, according to the faithfulness I have set as the foundation of your life. Look back at this when you thought you had lost everything. I still left you a seed. When you feared you could not hold on, I still gave you enough strength for the day. When you reached exhaustion, I quietly sent you a person, a task, an idea, a small door just enough to keep you from being submerged. That seed was not only for survival, it was an announcement that I would do something greater from something small. You know the story of the woman who had only a little flour and a bit of oil, who thought she was at the end, but when she dared to trust and act on my word, provision was extended day after day. Do not see that story as something from long ago. See it as a mirror of how I work. I do not mock scarcity. I do not despise smallness. I do not abandon those who are at the very edge of their strength. I come at the right time, and I turn almost gone into still enough, and still enough into abundance. So you will know that your source does not lie in your hands, but in mine. Yet, my child, I do not only want to rescue you from a season of lack, I want to lead you out of a mindset that has imprisoned you for too long. My child, I want you to stop looking at the future through eyes of fear, to stop calculating life as though you must fight alone. I want you to learn to rest without becoming passive, to trust without becoming vague, to walk without panic. You have grown used to carrying everything yourself. So when I say I will carry it with you, you feel both relief and suspicion. You fear that, if you let go, everything will fall. I understand. But here, this faith is not closing your eyes to reality. Faith is placing reality into my hands and trusting that I can do what you cannot. So begin with a very small but very real shift, instead of letting worry rule your mornings. Let me lead. Instead of letting numbers govern your emotions, let my word anchor you. Instead of blaming yourself for not moving fast enough, see your journey as a process I have carefully tended. You are not late. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. If today you are reading these words, it is because I am opening a door in your heart first, so you can receive what I am about to give without trembling like one afraid to lose it. I am calling you out of survival mode and into an inheritance mindset. And I say this gently, yet decisively. The season of constant tension will no longer be your main story. I will teach you how to steward, how to build foundations, how to walk wisely, not so you will boast in your own wisdom, but so you will see that this wisdom flows from obedience and from the light I give. You will not receive only temporary help. You will receive a new way of living, a new rhythm, a new peace. But there is one thing you must do right here at the beginning. Stop resisting through doubt. Stop soothing yourself with the thought, it will probably be like all the other times. I am not speaking to fill empty space. I am speaking to lay the foundation for a change of season. Let my words enter you like rain soaking into the soil, not loud, not rushed, but certain softening dry places and awakening seeds that have been asleep. I have led you here, and I will not leave you halfway. You only need to remain in trust. Keep your heart upright, and open your hands not to boast, but to receive and to become a channel of blessing for others. For what I am about to begin in your life will not only lighten your burden, it will make you a living testimony that I am still the provider, the restorer, the one who changes destinies in his appointed time. If you have read this far, take a deep breath and let your heart answer me with the simplest truth: I am here. My beloved child, I continue speaking to you, not in a different voice, but in the same breath that has led you to this point, because what I am doing is not interrupted, nor is it a series of disconnected words. I am weaving a process, and you are inside that very process. There are things that can only be understood when you choose to stay, to listen, to let your heart open little by little, like dry ground that needs time to absorb the rain. You have grown accustomed to moving quickly, to keeping up, to managing things before they become too late. So when I invite you to remain in this slowness, you feel restless. But I want you to understand this: I do not work in haste, and I am never late. My rhythm is not the rhythm of fear. My rhythm is the rhythm of life being restored. When you keep running after external pressures, you hear only noise. But when you are willing to stop in me, you will hear guidance that is gentle, clear, and true. I know you are used to managing things on your own. I know there were years when you did not dare lean on anyone, did not dare hope for too much, because every hope that went unanswered left a scratch inside you. Little by little, you learned to lower your expectations to protect yourself. You told your heart that it was enough to get through the day. Enough if things were not worse than yesterday. But, my child, that is not how I created you to live. I did not breathe life into you so that you would merely survive. I did not place you in this world so that you would shrink back from the future. I created you with the capacity to expand, with a heart that can receive, and with a journey meant to be guided by my provision, not by your anxiety. There is something I want you to recognize. Lack does not only affect outward circumstances, it quietly shapes how you see yourself. When you live for a long time and struggle, you begin to believe you must shrink your dreams, limit your hope, and remind yourself not to aim too high. But I tell you this, it is I who place healthy desires in your heart. Not every longing comes from greed. Some longings come from calling. Some dreams are not meant to exalt you, but to position you where I have appointed you to be. When you suppress every desire out of fear of disappointment, you also, without realizing it, close the door to what I want to give. I do not blame you for protecting yourself this way. I understand why you did it, but now I am inviting you to step out of that tight garment, to breathe more deeply, to live more fully, and to trust more freely. You have grown used to measuring everything by your own capacity, how much you have, what you can do, whom you know, how much time and how many resources you possess. But I want you to learn a different measure, to measure by my presence. When I am in your story, the limits you are used to are no longer the final barrier. I do not deny the reality you are facing, but I do not allow that reality to have the last word. People see what is, I see what is forming. People look at today's numbers, I look at the flow I am opening for tomorrow. So when I say I am preparing a new season for you, I am not speaking of a quick miracle that lets you exhale and then returns you to the same cycle. I am speaking of a deeper shift, where the way you think, choose, and walk is reset on a different foundation. I am teaching you to discern between caution and fear. Caution comes from wisdom, fear comes from painful memories. When you make decisions only to avoid being hurt again, you allow the past to drive you. But when you make decisions in the light of trust, you allow me to lead you into something new. I am not calling you to be reckless, nor am I calling you to ignore responsibility. I am calling you to walk with me, so that each step is balanced between wisdom and faith. You do not need to carry the future on your own. I have not placed that burden on your shoulders. I simply invite you to place your hand in mine and walk step by step, slow enough to hear, steady enough not to fall. You may be asking yourself, if I trust, if I open my heart, if I hope again, will I be hurt even more? I do not promise that you will never face challenges, but I promise that you will not face them alone. There is a profound difference between entering difficulty in isolation and entering it with me beside you. When I am with you, difficulty is no longer the end point. It becomes a place of transformation. Just as I led my people through the wilderness, not so they would die of thirst, but so they would learn that their source was not what they stored up, but me, who provided daily, so I am doing in your life. That path was not short, but it was necessary, so they could enter a new land without carrying the mindset of slavery. I am doing the same with you. I know you are weary of promises. I know you have heard many beautiful words, while results failed to appear. That is why I am not rushing you to believe immediately in great things. I am only inviting you to do one very small thing here. Let your heart soften a little more. Just a little. Do not lock it down with old conclusions. Do not rush to say, I know this already, or I've heard this before. Let my words stay with you longer than a moment. Let them touch the places you rarely allow anyone to touch, the place of tired hope, of postponed dreams, of faith tested many times. I am preparing you not only for a financial change, but for a change in how you walk through life. When provision opens, I do not want you to panic like someone touching water for the first time after a drought. I want you to step into it with peace, with stewardship, with a heart that knows what it receives is meant to care for, to build, and to share. I do not give abundance so that it will consume you. I give abundance so that you may be free, free from fear, free from shame, free from the need to prove your worth through numbers. When you understand this, provision will no longer feel like pressure, but like a tool that allows you to live more fully in the identity I have placed within you. I am not urging you to do anything right now. I only want you to stay, to listen, and to allow a very gentle adjustment to take place within. Let the walls you built out of disappointment come down one stone at a time. Let old inner statements be replaced by a new truth. I am the one who cares for you, and I do so completely. You do not need to strive for my attention. You are already within my sight. You do not need to prove that you are worthy. My love does not operate that way. If you sense within your heart both a quiet peace and a slight trembling, then you are in the right place. Peace comes from my presence. Trembling comes from the fact that you are about to step beyond what is familiar. Do not be afraid of that feeling. It is not a sign of danger, but a sign of movement. I am leading you, and every small step you allow me to guide is preparing you for what I will reveal next. Stay. Let these words settle. And remember, I am not only speaking to you about a better future, I am shaping you so that you can enter that future without losing yourself. My beloved child, I am still here with you, not as a distant echo fading away, but as a presence drawing nearer as you choose to open your heart. What I am saying to you is not meant to be understood only by your mind, but to be allowed to sink into the deepest layers of your inner life, where old beliefs were formed through wounds, waiting, and disappointment. There are things I can reveal only when you stop trying to control the direction of the story. When you stop asking when and begin asking, what are you teaching me in this moment? You have grown used to needing to know the outcome before you dare to move, to seeing the road before you dare to walk. But I am leading you into a different place, a place where you learn to trust before you see, to rest before completion, and to step forward before all the answers are laid out. Have you noticed that along the road you have walked, the moments you thought you were strongest were often the moments you were most exhausted, and the moments you felt you had nothing left to hold on to were the very moments when I had the most room to act. I do not wait for you to be perfect before I come. I do not wait for you to be confident before I speak. I enter your life right in the middle of the broken pieces, because there you no longer rely on the illusion of self-control, but begin to long for a true foundation. Your weakness has never turned me away. On the contrary, it is where my power can be revealed most clearly, leaving no confusion that what unfolds is the result of grace, not your own skill. I am not only repairing what was damaged, I am reshaping the way you step into tomorrow. If I were to address only your present shortages without touching the root of fear within you, you would simply build new walls, even if circumstances improved. That is why I am reaching into the deepest places of your heart, the places where you learned to defend yourself, where you became accustomed to shrinking inward to avoid further pain. I do not come to accuse, I come to loosen what has been bound. I do not come under pressure, I come to heal. Some layers of fear have clung to you for so long that you assumed they were part of your personality. But I tell you this, they are only the traces of seasons when you had to survive on your own. You once believed that if you did not worry ahead of time, if you did not calculate every outcome, everything would collapse. But I am teaching you a different way of living. You can prepare without panic. You can plan without being ruled by fear. You can work diligently and still remain at rest within. This does not happen overnight. It is the result of allowing me to shift the inner axis of your life. When that axis moves from, what if it's not enough, to, where am I with you in this? The way you face life will begin to change. Decisions that once tightened your chest will grow clearer. Crossroads that once confused you will feel less dark, not because you know everything, but because you trust that I am leading you. I want you to notice something very subtle. The provision I speak of does not always arrive in the form you expect. Sometimes it comes as timely understanding, an unexpected calm, the ability to say no to what drains you, or a new courage to step into what you once avoided. I provide not only through material means, I provide through clarity, inner freedom, and the ability to see your worth without comparison. When these are restored to their rightful place, the external streams will naturally find their course. You will begin to realize that some doors were always there, but you were not yet calm enough to see them. Some opportunities came, but you were too weary to take hold of them. I do not blame you for what you missed. I am restoring you so that you are ready for what is coming. I do not promise you a specific timeline, because I know that if I did, you would return to counting days and hours, and anxiety would quietly slip back in. Instead, I promise you something deeper. I am working consistently, without interruption, overlooking no detail of your life. Each day you remain in this trust. Something is being set back into its proper place. You may not yet see outward change, but inwardly you are being rearranged like a room after a long season of disorder. When order is restored, you will no longer live with the sense of always being behind, always on the verge of lacking, always about to lose. My child, when I speak of a new season, I am not speaking only of what you will receive, but also of what you will release. Release responsibilities that were never yours. Release distorted expectations you have carried on behalf of others. Release the habit of blaming yourself whenever things do not unfold as planned. These have drained enormous amounts of energy. Energy I want you to use to live, to build, to love. When you let go, you do not lose. You make space for me to place something better. You do not become weaker by releasing, you become freer. You may sense a gentle tension within a part of you wants to trust, while another part remains cautious. That does not disappoint me. It simply tells me you are being honest. I do not need you to pretend to be strong, nor to prove your faith with grand words. I only ask that you stay honestly present, bringing both your trust and your fear before me. I am spacious enough to hold both, and patient enough to lead you through them. When you allow yourself to be imperfect in faith, your faith finally has room to grow. So I ask you to do one very simple thing. Acknowledge that you are no longer meant to carry everything alone. Say it, even softly. Let it echo within you as a release. You have carried enough for long enough. Now is the time to learn how to walk with me without haste, without shrinking back, without remaining in constant defense. I am not only leading you out of lack, I am leading you out of the mindset of lack. When that happens, you will realize that what I am doing is far greater than solving a single problem. I am rewriting how you live, how you trust, and how you step into the future. And you are not walking alone. I am here. I am always here. I am guiding you with a gentle movement, like a river quietly changing its course without noise. What I am doing in your life is not patching scattered fragments, but re-establishing the flow itself. You have passed through the first layers of healing, where I touched your fear, your weariness, and the way you see yourself. Now, I want you to look a little wider, not so you carry more, but so you recognize the larger picture you are part of. Some things, when viewed from your old position, looked like being stuck, but when you stand where I am leading you, you will see that you are being set back into the right place. You have grown used to viewing your life as a chain of reactions. If this happens, then what must you do next? If you lack something here, then you compensate over there. If you lose this, then you try to secure something else. That way of living helped you survive, but it did not give you rest. It kept you perpetually braced, ready to withstand, ready to improvise, ready to sacrifice your own rest in exchange for temporary security. I do not blame you for learning to live that way. It was how you protected yourself in difficult seasons. But I want you to know that I did not form you to live forever in reaction mode. I formed you to live under guidance. There is a vast difference between endlessly running to fix what feels wrong and walking in a direction that has already been illuminated. Learn to trust that your life is not only the outcome of what has happened to you, but also the outcome of what I am actively arranging. You are not trapped inside a cold chain of cause and effect. You are living within a story that breathes, one in which I honor your choices, and yet remain powerful enough to transform the course when you place your trust in me. Some things you call consequences, I am using as turning points. Some things you assumed were endings, I am reshaping into beginnings. If you look only through memory, you will see limitations. But if you look through my presence, you will see possibility. I know you have often wondered why you had to take the long way around, why some people seem to arrive faster, why the same effort can produce different results. Those questions do not push me away from you. I am not threatened by your questions, but I want you to be careful with the answers you give those questions within your own heart. If you answer through comparison, you will drain yourself. If you answer through bitterness, you will close the doors I am preparing. I want you to learn to answer through trust, trusting that your path has its own rhythm, and that rhythm is calibrated so you will not only arrive, but remain steady when you do. My beloved child, provision is not separate from the way you live each day. I am not bringing you a miracle, so that you can continue in disorder. I am bringing you a new alignment, one in which you learn to set priorities. Learn discernment. Learn to say enough to what is draining you. There are burdens you have carried for far too long simply because you believed that if you released them, everything would collapse. But I tell you, not every weight is your responsibility. When you carry what I never assigned to you, you are not proving faithfulness. You are only exhausting yourself. I am freeing you from the habit of trying to carry the whole world. You will begin to notice that when you allow me to restore order, your small daily choices begin to change as well. You will no longer be swept into decisions made only to soothe short-term anxiety. You will waste less energy on things that lead nowhere. You will learn to invest your time, strength, and resources in what bears lasting life. This is not cold calculation. It is wisdom born from rest. When your heart is settled, you will see more clearly what is truly worth keeping and what you should allow me to put away. I am not only preparing you to receive, I am preparing you to become a steward. There is a great difference between having resources in your hand and knowing how to cultivate those resources so they multiply. I do not give you abundance so you feel pressured to prove something. I give you abundance so you can live more lightly, more generously, and more freely in doing good. But to step into that, you must allow me to reshape some old patterns, not by force, but through new understanding. When you understand why I am leading you along this road, you will stop resisting and begin cooperating. In this season, you may feel as though you are being slowed down, as though I am asking you to pause certain things before letting you move forward. Do not fear that. This slowing is not delay, it is alignment. Just as a builder must stop to recalibrate the measuring line before continuing, I am pausing you so the foundation will not be set crooked. If you move quickly on a warped foundation, you will have to repair far more later. I love you too much to let you enter a new season while old cracks remain untreated. I am not handing you a checklist. I am simply inviting you to observe your life under a different light. Look at what is making you tired, and ask me what should be kept and what should be released. Look at what occupies so much space in your mind, and ask me what comes from true responsibility and what comes from old fear. When you begin to ask those questions, you are stepping out of reactive living and into guided living. I am not in a hurry. I am not pushing. I am not pulling you faster than your capacity. I walk with you, and every step I take has intention. You are not being left behind. You are being prepared to go farther without breaking. As you read this, let your heart settle for a moment and recognize this. I am building something durable, quiet, but steady, and what I build will be strong enough to carry you through the coming seasons, where provision will no longer be an obsession, but will become a natural part of your life for me. My child, there are patterns in your thinking that were formed in seasons of lack, and even though circumstances have begun to shift, those patterns still linger like an echo. You became accustomed to constant vigilance, to preparing for the worst, to bracing yourself for disappointment. I do not blame you for that. I know you learned to live that way so you would not collapse. But, beloved, if you keep bringing the reflexes of the past into the season I am opening, you will not fully enjoy the freedom I want to give you. That is why, in this passage, I am gently showing you the invisible cords that still bind your heart, so you can allow me to untie them. How many of your decisions have not come from what you truly want to build, but from what you fear you might lose? You choose safety because you fear risk. You hold tightly because you fear emptiness. You hesitate because you fear being wrong. That fear is not always loud, but it is persistent. It weaves itself into how you think about money, work, the future, and even your own worth. I want you to understand this when fear becomes the primary engine. It will always demand more from you, yet it will never give you rest. It convinces you that if you loosen your grip even slightly, everything will fall apart. But I tell you, true security does not come from how tightly you hold on. It comes from knowing who is holding you. I am not calling you to be reckless, nor am I calling you to ignore responsibility. I am calling you to learn to distinguish between wisdom that is guided and defensiveness born from wounds. Guided wisdom leaves you at peace even when you must make difficult decisions. Defensiveness leaves you tense even when everything is fine. When you begin to recognize that difference, you will understand why I am inviting you to slow down, to look more carefully, and to allow me to adjust the inner motives of your heart before I open more outward doors. You may be waiting for a clear sign, a dramatic turning point, a change that can be seen immediately, but I am working at a deeper level. I am restoring the way you relate to provision. I want you to stop seeing it as something fragile that could disappear at any moment, and begin to see it as a flow that is connected to me. When you trust that your source is in me, you will no longer panic at temporary fluctuations. You will no longer allow numbers to determine your worth. You will no longer live with the pressure of having to prove that you are good enough, worthy enough, or striving enough in order to feel secure. I know there were times when you gave everything you had and the outcome still fell short of what you hoped for. Those experiences left behind a quiet question within you. Am I doing something wrong? But hear me clearly, not every delay is a mistake. And not every challenge is a sign that you have lost your way. There are stretches where I slow you down so you do not carry old burdens into the place you are about to enter. If I were to lead you into abundance without healing your relationship with lack, you would live in constant fear of losing. No matter how much you held in your hands, I love you too much to allow that. Look again at how you have learned to measure yourself. You became accustomed to tying your worth to performance, to resilience, to how well you could hold yourself together. When you succeeded, you felt valuable. When you grew tired or slowed down, you began to doubt yourself. But I want you to know that your value does not rise and fall with success or struggle. You are valuable because you are, my child, not because you are always strong. When you allow me to redefine this, you will stop forcing yourself to endure every circumstance with clenched teeth. You will permit yourself to rest when rest is needed, to learn when learning is required, and to walk when I lead. Not every opportunity is a door I open. Not every invitation needs a response. When you live in fear of lack, you tend to grasp whatever appears promising, afraid that if you pass it by, nothing else will come. But when you trust that I am your source, you will have the courage to say no to what does not align. Even if it looks appealing, you will no longer be driven by scarcity, but by discernment. And it is within that discernment that I protect you from paths that would slowly drain you. You may notice that as I work within you in this way, some familiar things begin to lose their pull. What once made you anxious no longer sends you into panic. Pressures that once dictated your decisions grow lighter. Do not be troubled when this happens. It is not a sign that you are losing motivation. It is a sign that you are being set free. I am not taking your desire away, I am refining it. So it is no longer contaminated by fear and comparison. My beloved child, I want you to see that provision is not only something I give to you, but something I invite you to walk with. When you walk with me, you will learn to sow and reap without anxiety. to give without fear of lack, and to receive without guilt. You will understand that my flow is not interrupted by your weak days, nor accelerated by your strained efforts. It moves according to my faithfulness, not your perfection. If, as you hear these words, you sense a quiet lightness settling into your heart, let it remain. Do not rush back into familiar worries. Allow this peace to do its work. It is preparing you for what comes next, where I will speak more clearly about what is opening and how you will step into it without carrying old chains. I am leading you, layer by layer, out of defensiveness and into trust, and you are on the right path. I am leading you into this season as one who opens a door deeper within the house, a place you rarely dared to enter. Not because it was dangerous, but because there you no longer had your familiar tools of self-protection. You have come far enough for me to speak to you now with both honesty and gentleness. Some of the barriers in your life no longer come from circumstances, but from quiet beliefs you have carried for too long. They are not loud or obvious, but they shape how you see the future, how you respond to opportunity, and how much you allow yourself to receive. I do not reveal this to burden you, but to free you, because what is named begins to lose its power. You have grown used to believing that you must be more deserving before you receive, more stable before you can rest, more certain before you dare to move. These ideas sound reasonable, but if you look closely, you will see that they continually push your life forward into later, as if your real life is always meant to begin someday in the future. I do not want you to live that way. I did not call you to postpone joy, rest, and expectation for a vague tomorrow. I called you to live fully in the present, even when the present is unfinished, because it is in the present that I am working. There is a truth I want you to face at times. You fear abundance almost as much as you fear lack. You are afraid that having more will mean carrying more. You are afraid that if things open wide, you will not be wise enough to hold them. You are afraid that if you receive too much, you will fail, lose it, and be hurt again. These fears are not signs of greed, they are signs of past wounds. But hear me when I lead you into abundance. I do not leave you to face it alone. I bring you into it with my guidance, my wisdom, and my protection. You are not required to hold what I give by yourself. I am present within what I give. My provision is not meant to replace your relationship with me, but to deepen it. I do not want you to love what I give more than you love me. I do not want you to seek safety in outcomes and forget the source. That is why, before I make the outward opening unmistakably clear, I am anchoring your heart to something firm within. When you are anchored in me, success will not carry you away, and change will not crush you. You will stand steady, not because everything is perfect, but because you know where you are standing. My child, I also want to speak to you about patience, not as passive endurance, but as quiet strength. Patience is not waiting in tension. Patience is remaining in trust. When you practice patience this way, you do not stop living, you live more deeply. You do not suspend your life on a single outcome. You walk each day with an awareness that I am present in every detail. This kind of patience does not weaken you, it stabilizes you, because you are no longer pulled back and forth by temporary emotions. You may be realizing that what I am doing does not look the way you once imagined. You may have thought that when I moved, everything would immediately become clear, easy, and conflict-free. But I am teaching you a different kind of recognition. True change often begins in silence. It does not always arrive with loud rupture. Sometimes it resembles a seed pushing through hardened soil, slow, unseen, yet persistent. If you only look for dramatic signs, you will miss the most important movements. But if you learn to listen, you will recognize that much has already begun to shift. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself in this season. The words you repeat inwardly carry more power than you realize. If you keep telling yourself, "It will probably stay the same. I won't expect much. Better not hope so I won't be disappointed," you are unknowingly rebuilding walls that I am dismantling. I am not asking you to speak grand declarations or force optimism. I am simply inviting you to tell the truth in a new way I am learning to trust. I do not see everything yet, but I am being led. I am not alone in this journey. These words do not deny reality. They place reality within my light. I am not asking you to change everything all at once. I am simply inviting you to change the position of your heart. Instead of standing in defense, stand in openness. Instead of holding your breath while waiting for something bad to happen, breathe steadily and allow me to lead. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What am I learning in this step?" These small shifts will create a new inner space within you. And it is precisely in that space that what I am preparing will be able to enter without overwhelming you. I want you to remember this. You do not need to turn yourself into someone else in order to enter a new season. I am not asking you to change your nature. I am asking you to let me heal the places that have been distorted by fear and pressure. You do not need to become harder. You need to become safer. You do not need to strain more. You need to be properly supported. When you are supported, you will naturally stand straighter, walk more steadily, and see farther. So I want you to pause for a moment and recognize this. Many of the things you once feared no longer have the authority to decide the story. They may still whisper, but they are no longer steering. I am steering, and I am not leading you into a vague future, but into a way of life where provision, wisdom, and peace are no longer rare moments, but a new rhythm. You do not need to rush. You do not need to prove yourself. You only need to remain in this trust. Because I am doing what I promised, layer by layer, step by step, and nothing in your journey is meaningless. My beloved child, you are now like someone stepping out of a room that has been carefully set in order, standing before a wider doorway where light no longer shines only inward, but begins to illuminate the path ahead. What I have done in the earlier stages was to prepare the foundation, soften your heart, loosen unseen chains, and restore inner order. Now I want you to understand that the change does not stop within. It is preparing to be revealed in your everyday life. But, my child, I do not want you to enter this stage with a mindset of waiting for a sudden explosion only to fall back into old patterns. I am leading you into a season where movement is steady, grounded, and directed so that what I give not only arrives, but remains. You have grown accustomed to believing that miracles must be dramatic, accompanied by unmistakable signs that leave no room for doubt. But I want you to learn a different way of recognizing my work. Much of what I do is quiet, yet it carries enduring strength. Like a seed planted in the soil, no one sees it sprout in the early days. But when the time comes, life has grown strong enough to break through the surface. I am doing the same in your life. The subtle changes you are noticing: greater peace, clearer thinking, less urgency to prove yourself, are not insignificant. They are evidence that the roots are being reset, and from those roots, new branches will emerge at the right time. I want you to begin viewing your life not only through the lens of what you lack, but through the lens of what is being formed. You may not yet see obvious changes in your circumstances, but you have begun to respond differently to what once caused panic. You are asking different questions, making different choices, even resting differently. Do not underestimate these shifts. They show that you are no longer fully conditioned by past seasons. You are learning to live with a vision longer than a day, a week, or a month, and that is necessary for entering what I am opening. Understand this when I speak of provision. I am not only speaking of what I bring to you, but also of how I guide you to receive it. Some gifts, if given too early before you are ready, become burdens. That is why I am not in a hurry. I am not delaying because I have forgotten you. I am aligning because I know you. I know what you need, when you need it, and how it must come so that it becomes a blessing rather than pressure. When you trust this, you will stop comparing your journey to others and begin honoring your own rhythm with me. Pay attention to the very ordinary signals I am using to guide you. It may be an idea you cannot shake, advice that arrives at just the right moment, a small opportunity that seems insignificant, or a gentle inner nudge to adjust a habit. Do not wait for only grand events to count as guidance. I often begin with small steps, because small steps lay the foundation for larger ones. When you are faithful in small things, you are training for the greater responsibilities I will entrust to you. Be prepared for the reality that as you enter this stage, not everything around you will immediately agree. There may be voices of doubt, looks of misunderstanding, or even reactions from those who are familiar to you. That does not mean you are on the wrong path. Many times throughout history, when I began doing something new, the surrounding environment had not yet caught up. I do not require widespread agreement to fulfill my purposes. I only require your heart to remain anchored in my guidance. When you stand firm there, what needs to change around you will gradually realign. You may be learning how to walk without the same guarantees you once relied on. That can feel both lighter and slightly unsettling. I understand. But hear this, the unease you feel is not because you are losing your foundation, but because you are shifting from reliance on what you can control to reliance on me. That transition always feels unfamiliar. Yet, it is in that unfamiliarity that you will discover I am more secure than any system you have depended on before. When you realize this, you will walk with a new freedom, not because everything is settled, but because you know you are being held. You may once have thought progress meant having more, moving faster, seeing clearer outcomes, but I am expanding that definition for you. Progress also means knowing when to pause, knowing how to say no to what does not align, and keeping your heart at rest amid unanswered questions. Progress is when you are no longer driven by the fear of falling behind, but choose to walk steadily in the light I provide. When you understand this, you will no longer view quiet days as wasted, but as a necessary part of the journey. So I am not pressing you toward a specific outcome. I am simply inviting you to continue walking with me, carrying the awareness you are learning. Let what I have planted in you continue to take root. Let the peace I have given continue to do its work. And remember this, you are not merely waiting for change ahead of you. You are living within the very process of that change. I am present in every step you take, and what I have begun, I will bring to completion in a way that leads you not only to have more, but to live more deeply, more steadily, and more freely in me. There are seasons when I do not change circumstances immediately, but I change the way you see them, and that change becomes the key that opens the next step. When you see differently, you walk differently. When you walk differently, You enter places you have never been before. This is not self-comfort, it is a real spiritual order being established in your life. You have grown accustomed to believing that important things must come from the outside, a major decision, a clear opportunity, an event that turns everything around. But I am teaching you that many turning points begin within, through very small shifts in how you respond. Where uncertainty once made you tense, you now pause. Where difficult choices once sent you into panic, you now listen. Those pauses are not wasted time, they are the spaces I use to speak to you. When you are no longer driven by the fear of reacting immediately, you begin to hear the subtle guidance that you were once too restless to recognize. In this season, I am leading you into a different rhythm of life. It is not faster, but deeper. You no longer need to do more in order to feel that you are moving forward. You only need to do what is aligned. When you live by this rhythm, you will notice that your energy is no longer leaking into invisible anxieties. You will no longer be exhausted from constantly having to prove that you are trying hard enough. You will begin to sense a quiet support, as though an unseen hand is steadying you in moments when you are not yet sure-footed. Look more closely at how I use time. You often experience time as something working against you, as if every day that passes without visible results is a day wasted. But I do not see time that way. I use time the way a skilled craftsman uses fire, not to destroy, but to refine. Some things, if they arrive too early, would confuse you. Others, if they arrive too late, would discourage you. I place everything at the moment when you can receive it with peace. When you understand this, you will stop blaming yourself for being behind and begin to trust that you are being held within a purposeful process. In this phase, I am not testing you with new difficulties, but with faithfulness in ordinary things. Your life may not feel dramatic. There may be no major disruptions or urgent demands pulling you in every direction. Yet it is precisely in this ordinary space that I am watching how you steward your mind, how you use your time, and how you treat yourself. Do you allow yourself to rest when you need to? Or do you still carry guilt when you slow down? Do you know how to say enough to the invisible demands that are wearing you down? These questions are not meant to pressure you. They are invitations into a healthier way of living. Because I do not want you to enter what is new with a heart that is already exhausted. My beloved child, my prompting carries peace, even when it asks for courage. The pressure of fear always carries urgency and tension. When you learn to recognize the difference, you will no longer be pulled into hurried decisions simply to escape discomfort. You will know when to wait, when to speak, and when to move. And when you move in the right direction, you will find that what I have prepared begins to meet you along the way, not as shocks, but as natural alignments. Understand this: the provision I am speaking of is inseparable from your growth. I do not give to keep you standing still. I give to usher you into a new role. That role is not about carrying heavier burdens, but about living with clearer purpose. When you live with purpose, you will not waste your resources on things that do not nourish life. You will begin to choose with clarity, not because you fear lack, but because you know where you are going. And that clarity will protect you from many detours that quietly drain you. You may notice that in this season, I speak less than before. Do not assume I am silent. This quiet is not emptiness, it is space for what I have already spoken to settle and take root. I do not need to repeat the same instruction when you have begun to live it. When you apply it, when you choose differently in very ordinary situations, you are answering me with your life, and I delight in those answers far more than in grand promises. As you begin to live by this new rhythm, you will no longer fit every old mold. You may stop chasing standards that once made you anxious. You may care less about what others think and more about whether your heart is at peace. This does not make you self-centered, it makes you honest. And when you live honestly, what truly aligns with you will be drawn in, while what no longer belongs will naturally fall away. In this season, I am not asking you to do something great. I am simply inviting you to keep walking with the awareness you are learning. Let each day become a space where you listen, adjust, and trust. Let the peace I give you become the measure of your choices. And remember this, you are not standing still. Even when everything seems quiet, I am still at work. What I am building in you now will support you in the next steps, where the opening will be clearer and you will enter it not with panic, but with steadiness forged in silence. There are changes that are not loud or visible, yet, when you look back, you will realize you are no longer standing where you once were. You no longer react the same way. You are no longer pulled by the same fears. You no longer treat yourself with the same harshness. These shifts are not accidental. They are the marks of the quiet guidance I placed upon you when you chose to stay and listen. I want you to grasp an important truth. Growth does not always feel powerful. Sometimes it arrives as gentleness. You no longer need to prove that you are fine. You allow yourself to be honest. You no longer try to control every possibility. You learn to trust. You no longer treat unanswered questions as threats. You receive them as a natural part of the journey. When you live this way, you are entering a new depth where your life is no longer driven by urgency, but by my presence. Having come this far, you are no longer in a phase of preparing to begin. You are already inside the unfolding itself. This means your choices now carry a different weight, not because you must carry more pressure, but because you have enough foundation to recognize what aligns with you. You will find yourself less easily drawn in by quick promises. You will feel less rushed when facing opportunities that look attractive but do not carry peace. That is not fear, it is discernment. My child, in this passage, I want you to pay close attention to honesty within yourself. I am not speaking of honesty toward others, but honesty with your own heart. Are you listening to the signs of your own fatigue? Or are you still pushing forward out of fear of appearing weak? Are you honoring the limits I have placed within you? Or are you still trying to override them to meet invisible expectations? I do not ask these questions to accuse you, but to invite you into deeper freedom. When you live honestly with yourself, you will no longer be trapped in the role of the one who must always be fine. You will be free to be who you truly are, and it is in that truth that I work most powerfully. I am changing the way you experience provision. Before, you may have wanted it only to solve a problem. Now I am teaching you to see it as part of a living relationship between you and me. Provision is no longer something you chase, it is something you walk with. As you live in this harmony, many things will naturally find their place. Decisions will become clearer. Relationships will grow healthier. Choices about work, time, and energy will carry less inner conflict. Not because everything has been resolved, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. Not everyone will understand your new rhythm of life. Some may think you have slowed down. Some may think you are less ambitious. Some may not understand why you are no longer chasing the things that were once considered obvious. You do not need to explain yourself. When you live according to the rhythm I have set for you, your peace will speak on your behalf. I did not call you to convince the whole world. I called you to stand in the right place. Those who need to understand will understand at the right time. The opening ahead does not mean you will never face difficulty again, but it does mean that when difficulty comes, it will no longer knock you down as before. You will not panic as though everything is about to collapse. You will know how to pause, listen, and move forward with a steadiness that has been forged over time. You will no longer feel as though you are fighting alone. My presence will no longer be a concept you try to believe in, but a reality you have learned to live with. Look at yourself again through a different lens, not one of judgment, and not one of comparison, but one of awareness. You have come farther than you think. You have learned more than you realize, and you have changed in ways that only time and faithfulness can produce. Do not dismiss this. Do not rush to say, "Nothing has happened yet." Much has already happened. Only it has taken place at a deeper level, where what endures is formed. I want you to pause for a moment and acknowledge this. You are no longer the same person who entered this story at the beginning. You have been opened, softened, and repositioned. And from this foundation, what I am about to reveal will not overwhelm you, but will be received with peace and clarity. I am not in a hurry. I'm not pushing you. I am walking with you. And as you move forward, you are no longer stepping like someone groping in the dark, but like someone who has learned to recognize the light even when it comes gently. My beloved child, what I have done in previous seasons was not merely to give you more understanding, but to reposition you. Now, as you stand here, I want you to realize that you are no longer in a phase of preparation alone. You are being invited into a season where what has been arranged begins to operate more tangibly. Even so, I do not want you to move forward with impatience or impulsive expectations. Step in with awareness, with a heart that has been softened, and with trust that has been refined through quiet journeys. My opening does not always come in the form of adding more. Very often, it comes in the form of resetting. I am resetting your priorities. I am clarifying what truly nourishes you and what merely keeps you busy without producing life. You have been used to judging a good or bad day by how much you accomplished, how many problems you solved, or whether you felt you had done enough. But I am teaching you a different measure. A good day is one in which you live in the right place, at the right pace, without trading peace for temporary security. As you begin to live by this measure, many things that once weighed heavily on you will begin to lose their grip. In this season, I am teaching you how to walk without needing to control every outcome. You have grown accustomed to believing that if you do not hold tightly, monitor closely, and prepare for every possibility, things will slip through your fingers. But I am inviting you into something deeper, trusting that some outcomes are preserved not by your control, but by my faithfulness. This does not make you passive. It frees you from the burden of having to be the guardian of your own future. When you stop trying to keep everything within your grasp, your hands will finally be open enough to receive what I am placing in them. I am expanding your understanding of what it means to have enough. Before, you may have thought enough meant not lacking, not falling into crisis, not worrying day by day. But I am teaching you that enough in my kingdom is not merely enough to survive, it is enough to live. Enough to breathe deeply without guilt. Enough to rest without fear of falling behind. Enough to give without anxiety that you will be emptied. When you step into this kind of enough, you will no longer be driven to accumulate just to keep up with others or to reach some standard before you can finally be at peace. You will begin to see more clearly what no longer fits you. It may be habits that once helped you endure difficult seasons, but now only leave you tired. It may be a concern you carry out of responsibility, but which no longer flow from love or calling. I am not asking you to cut everything off immediately. I am simply inviting you to look at these things honestly and ask me, does this still nurture life in me? When you begin to ask that question, I will guide you step by step in making adjustments, not through force, but through clarity. In this season, the provision I am speaking of is not a one-way flow from me to you. It is a relationship. As you live within this connection, you will begin to notice that some of what I provide comes through your daily choices, the way you use your time, the way you care for your body and soul, the way you establish healthy boundaries. These are not separate from provision, they are part of it. I do not sustain you only through what comes from the outside. I sustain you with wisdom so that you do not drain yourself from within. Prepare yourself for being invited into new responsibilities, not heavier ones, but different ones. You may no longer be asked to strain yourself to solve everything. I may lead you into roles where presence matters more than control, where listening matters more than reacting. This may feel unfamiliar, because it does not resemble what you once learned in order to survive. But I am leading you out of survival mode and into living mode. In this way of living, you are not measured by how exhausted you are, but by how aligned you are with me. You may begin to feel less compelled to run. You may no longer feel the need to constantly prove that you are trying hard enough. You may start allowing yourself to enjoy simple moments that you once overlooked because they seemed inefficient. Do not dismiss these changes. They are signs that you are stepping out of a pressured way of living and into a guided one. And it is precisely within this way of living that my provision will operate more naturally than you imagine. I do not promise that every day ahead will be easy, but I do promise that you will no longer walk with the same weight you once carried. You will no longer feel as though you must strain yourself to keep everything from falling apart. You will know when to pause, when to move forward, and how to rest without fear. That is the mark of a life that has been reordered. I am not rushing you. I am not pushing you. I am leading you into a season where provision, peace, and clarity are no longer things you must chase, but realities you walk with each day. And you are in the right place to enter this season not because you have done enough, but because you have allowed me to do my work within you. I continue to lead you in this season not by urging you to move faster, but by inviting you to stand more firmly where you are. For there are seasons when I do not ask how far you can go, but how steady you can remain when I begin placing new things into your hands. This steadiness does not come from your ability to control everything. It comes from knowing what you are standing on. And that foundation is not your competence, nor external stability, but my unchanging presence. True provision does more than meet needs. It reshapes your sense of safety. In the past, your sense of security may have been tied to how well you prepared, how carefully you planned ahead, or how much you managed to hold on to. But I am realigning that center of safety. I am teaching you to feel secure not because everything is tightly locked down, but because I am present. As you begin to live with this awareness, much of the quiet tension within you will naturally ease, not because problems vanish, but because you no longer face them alone. My child, you have grown accustomed to placing pressure on yourself. You may not call it pressure, you may call it responsibility, caution, maturity. But if you look more deeply, you will see that some of the burdens you carry are not ones I assigned to you, but ones you took on out of fear that if you did not carry them, everything would collapse onto you. I do not deny your responsibilities, but I never intended responsibility to become a chain in me. Responsibility is always accompanied by support. If you feel as though you are carrying without being supported, it is a sign that you are holding more than your portion. I am teaching you how to allow me to intervene. This may sound simple, but for you it is a significant shift. You have been used to calling on me only when things were already beyond your control, while handling everything else on your own as long as it did not seem serious enough. But I want you to invite me into the small things, the ordinary decisions, the quiet concerns you usually keep to yourself. When you do this, you are not burdening me. You are giving me the rightful place in your life. And when I have that place, I can lead you more fully. In this season, I am helping you distinguish between being busy and being fruitful. You can do many things and still feel empty, or do fewer things and yet feel nourished. The difference is not in the quantity of what you do, but in the source from which you draw as you do it. When you act from fear of falling behind, you will always be tired. When you act from trust, you will sense life flowing through you. I did not call you to exhaust yourself through effort. I called you to bear fruit through connection with me. In the past, you may have blamed yourself, compared yourself, and forced yourself to try harder. But I am inviting you into a different way of responding instead of condemning, observing instead of panicking, ask me instead of straining, pause and listen. This new way of responding does not make you weaker, it makes you wiser. When you stop beating yourself down, you create enough space to stand again and adjust without carrying shame. The opening I am preparing is not separate from your everyday life. It does not wait until you are freer, stronger, or more certain. It is woven into the very days you are living, into small decisions, quiet choices, and moments when you choose trust over fear. Each time you choose this way, you are consenting to the flow I am opening, and that flow is not forceful, but it is steady and unbroken. Prepare yourself to experience a new freedom in how you think about the future, not because everything has become clear, but because you no longer need everything to be clear in order to be at peace. You will begin to see the future not as a test you must pass, but as a space where I am waiting for you. When you see it this way, many worries will simply fall from your hands, not because you force yourself to release them, but because you no longer need to hold them. My beloved child, I will not hide from you that in this season there will be moments when you must make choices not everyone understands. You may choose to slow down when others urge you to move faster. You may choose to release something familiar in order to preserve peace. These choices are not always easy, but they will make you lighter. And that lightness does not come from avoiding responsibility, but from walking in the right place. When you walk in the right place, I will shield you from many unnecessary pressures. So I am not calling you to do something great. I am simply inviting you to remain in this guidance and to keep allowing me to reset your rhythm of life. Let peace become your signpost. Let weariness become a signal to pause, not to accuse yourself, but to listen. And remember this, I am not only preparing a specific provision for you, I am preparing a new way of living, where you are no longer stretched between fear and responsibility, but supported by my presence each day. What you have walked through has not been a series of disconnected fragments. They have come together like layers of earth compacted to support a lasting structure. Now, I want you to recognize that you are standing at a point of transition, where what I have planted begins to call for a different response, not more effort, but deeper companionship. You no longer need to ask, "What more must I do?" You are being invited to ask, "With whom am I walking in what I am doing?" Look honestly at a very familiar habit, measuring the value of a day by how much stress you endured. You have lived long enough to equate exhaustion with dedication and pressure with responsibility. But I am making a gentle yet decisive reversal. I do not need you to wear yourself out to prove anything. I do not ask you to sacrifice life itself in exchange for a sense of safety. I am inviting you into a way of living where faithfulness is expressed through full presence, not through self-erosion. As you begin to live this way, you will find yourself doing less of what is unnecessary and going deeper into what truly matters. In this season, I am redefining what it means to move forward. Before, you may have thought moving forward meant adding more tasks, more goals, more effort. But I am showing you that moving forward sometimes means letting go, releasing expectations that no longer fit, releasing promises you made out of fear, releasing roles you kept only because you were afraid of disappointing others. This letting go does not set you back. It frees you to walk lighter and farther. When your hands are no longer gripping what I never gave you, they will be free to receive what I am now placing in them. Perhaps in the past, silence made you anxious because it felt like stagnation. But I am teaching you something new. Silence is not always a pause. Often, it is focus, like an archer who needs stillness before releasing the bowstring. I am creating spaces of quiet so that your direction can be adjusted with greater precision. If you rush to break the silence simply to feel that you are doing something, you may drift off course without realizing it. But if you learn to remain in the silence, you will hear guidance more clearly than you expect. The provision I speak of is not something that comes and goes. It is a flow bound to obedience and attentiveness. When you move without listening, you may work very hard and still find that the outcome does not nourish you. When you listen and then move, you may do less and yet find your life lifted. This is not a miracle meant to excuse responsibility. It is an order in which responsibility is placed correctly. I do not diminish the value of effort. I place effort at the right source so that it can bear fruit. When you are no longer driven by the fear of lack, you will stop seeing others as threats or as measures of your worth. You will compare less, defend less, and feel less pressure to prove yourself. This will not distance you from people. It will allow you to connect more healthily. When you no longer need others to validate your value, you will be free to love, collaborate, and build without hidden competition. I am opening for you relationships founded on respect and peace, not on tension and rivalry. In the past, a small mistake could cause you to doubt the entire journey. Now I am teaching you to see mistakes as signals for adjustment, not as verdicts. When you allow yourself to learn instead of condemning yourself, you will grow faster without carrying shame. I do not need you to be perfect in order to guide you well. I need you to be willing to adjust when I point something out, and that willingness is the mark of a mature heart. The changes I am making in you will affect those around you, not because you are trying to set an example, but because your peace and clarity will naturally spread. You will become a safer presence for others, someone who listens more and reacts less. This is not accidental. I am preparing you not only to receive, but also to support, and that support will not drain you, because it flows from the current, not from strain. So, as you hear this, I want you to recognize something important. You no longer need to live in defensive mode. You do not have to remain braced for the worst. You are being invited into a peaceful attentiveness, where you know that if something must be faced, I will be there to face it with you. This attentiveness does not make you careless. It frees you from chronic anxiety, and in that freedom, you will find more space to live, to create, to love, and to build. I do not end this stretch with a command, nor with a distant promise. I end it with an assurance you are on the right path, not because everything is clear, but because you have learned to walk in the light I give you for each step. What I am preparing ahead will require the very steadiness, listening, and inner freedom you now carry. Stay in this rhythm. Keep walking with me, and trust that what is built in silence will be strong enough to support you when the next door opens. My child, you are now like one who has stepped onto new ground after months of walking familiar paths. And I want you to understand this: when I change circumstances, I do not merely change what you have, I change who you are in the way you hold, use, and trust. You once lived with the sense that you had to shrink, defend, and calculate every step, as though life were always about to take something from you. But now I am rebuilding you from within so that you can enter a wider rhythm of living, one in which you are no longer defined by lack, nor intoxicated by abundance. I am leading you into maturity, where your heart is no longer pulled between extremes: fear when there is not enough, or pride when there is much. I want you to stand in the middle, in peace, where you know your source is me. So you neither cling until you suffocate nor release until you are lost. Listen carefully, because this is a turning point many pass through, but few understand. What I give you will come with my instruction. If I were to pour out without guiding you, you might receive a season of blessing only to lose it again through old habits, fear-based reactions, or decisions rooted in unhealed wounds. That is why I do not send only resources, I send light. I will show you what is true opportunity and what is merely temptation wrapped in shine. I will teach you that not every open door is my invitation. Some doors open to test whether you will chase noise or listen for peace. And when you choose peace, you are choosing my door. You will no longer be drawn to quick promises, hurried shortcuts, or arrangements that trouble your conscience. You will be led into clean paths, because I do not build your prosperity on ambiguity. I set you on solid rock, so that when the winds come, you remain standing. The increase I give is not only to make breathing easier for you, it is also to expand your influence. I placed compassion in you because you have known what it is to be constrained, and you remember how bitter that felt. You know what it means to measure each meal, to smile while your heart is tangled. Because you have walked through that, you will not become hardened when I place more in your hands. Yet, my child, kindness must walk with wisdom. I do not want you to give out of guilt, nor to help in order to be praised. I want you to learn to open your hands under my guidance, to know when it is time to sow, when it is time to keep, when to say I can, and when to say I am not called to this. You are not responsible for saving the whole world. You are responsible for obeying me. When you obey, my flow will pass through you in the right way, without draining you. Remember, I once taught my people a lesson that was simple yet profound. Manna was sufficient for each day. Those who gathered extra out of fear found it spoiled. Those who trusted found provision every day. I do not remind you of this to return you to passive dependence, but to show you a principle. Fear causes you to store in the wrong way, while trust teaches you to steward well. As I lead you into a new season, I will also teach you how to allocate, organize, establish foundations, and prepare, but not from panic. I will give you a strategy. I will give you insight. I will give you the right counsel, and I will open paths you have never considered. But keep this as your anchor. Do not let money become the loudest voice within you. It is only a tool. If you let it rule, you will lose the peace you have just learned. If you place it rightly, you will use it to build, to heal, to nurture, and to make room for what is good. Increase does not come only from what is given, but also from what is released. Some knots in your life are not there because you lack ability, but because you have been bound by fear, fear of being wrong, fear of failure, fear of being looked down on. When I loosen those cords, you will move more boldly. You will dare to learn something new without shaming yourself. You will dare to begin again without embarrassment. You will dare to adjust without condemning yourself. And this will open doors you were never able to walk through before, not because the doors were locked, but because you stood before them with trembling hands. I am steadying your hands. I am lifting your gaze. I am restoring your dignity, so that you no longer live as someone who must ask life for permission to exist. You are allowed to live. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to receive the good I give. At times you may ask yourself, if you give like this, will I be able to keep it? I answer you gently, you do not keep it by your own strength. You keep it by connection, just as a branch cannot bear fruit if it is separated from the vine. Your life cannot produce lasting fruit if you detach from my presence. Do not turn this new season into a time when you are busier, but pray less. Do not let open doors make you forget the source who opened them. I am not jealous of your work, nor opposed to your progress. But remember this, what makes you strong is not a crowded schedule, but the current of life flowing within you. When you keep your heart in me, wisdom will arrive at the right moment. Discipline will be formed gently, and important decisions will no longer suffocate you. Therefore, I set before you a clear invitation: become a steward, not someone swept along by the current. Learn to see money as seed with purpose. Some seed is meant to be sown. Some is meant to be consumed. Some is meant to be stored for the coming season. I will show you the proportions. I will show you the rhythm. I will show you the boundaries. You will no longer spend to soothe emotions. You will no longer make financial decisions when your heart is unsettled. You will learn to pause, breathe deeply, ask me, and then move. And when you move this way, you will find that the road is no longer as uneven as before. Even when life still holds challenges, you will walk through them with clarity, not panic. Hold on to something very beautiful: gratitude. Not gratitude because you are now better off than others, but gratitude because you have been rescued from an old cycle. Gratitude will keep you from becoming bitter. Gratitude will keep you from forgetting the days when you were weak. And gratitude will guard you against pride, comparison, and the suffocating need to always prove yourself. I did not call you to live as someone who must compete. I called you to live as an heir, gentle yet grounded, humble yet not diminished. Your new season is not only about being added to, but about being exchanged. An exchange in how you think, how you choose, how you rest, how you open your hands, and how you walk. When these things are exchanged, what I give will no longer be a wave that comes and retreats. It will become an ordered flow that nourishes you, lifts you, and makes you a channel of blessing for others without costing you yourself. I am here. I am still leading, and I will not abandon what I have begun in your life. I speak all these things not to stir temporary excitement, but to help you stand firm when what I have spoken begins to touch your daily reality. For when I lead you into a season of increase, the challenge is no longer will you receive, but how will you walk once you have received it. Many people pray for change for a long time, but when change comes, they feel lost because they are unfamiliar with the new rhythm. I do not want that for you. I want you to enter what I give with maturity, with a prepared mind, and with a heart no longer pulled back and forth by old fears. When I expand your borders, I also expand your responsibility, but not in a way that weighs you down. Responsibility in me is not a burden pressing on your shoulders. It is the capacity to respond with awareness. I do not require you to do everything. I require you to do the part I entrust to you. And to do that, you must learn to distinguish between calling and noise. As resources increase, the noise around you will also increase. More offers, more needs, more opinions, more expectations. If you do not guard your inner listening, you will quickly drift from the path I am leading, not because you are wrong, but because you are too eager to please everyone. I did not call you to become someone who cannot say no. I called you to become someone who knows when to say yes and when to say no. This wisdom does not come from experience alone. It comes from closeness with me. When you stay near me, you will recognize that some things look good but are not for you. Some opportunities shine brightly but do not belong to this season. And some invitations, if accepted, would distract you from what I am building. You do not need to fear missing out. What belongs to you will not pass you by because you slowed down to ask me. On the contrary, what does not belong to you usually arrives with urgency, pressure, and unrest. Let peace stand guard over your decisions. Look again at how you once reacted to money and stability. In the past, you may have treated money as a final wall of protection when it was there. You felt secure when it was not. You panicked. I do not blame you, for you lived through enough lack to form that reflex. But now I am inviting you out of that tense relationship. I do not want money to become your new idol, nor do I want you to despise it. I want you to place it in its proper position, a servant, not a master. When money is in the right place, it serves you. When it is elevated wrongly, it controls you. You will no longer allow rising and falling numbers to determine your mood. You will learn to see them as data to steward, not as verdicts on your worth. The increase I give will require growth in discipline, but not harsh discipline. This is not self-denial, nor a rigid way of living. It is the discipline of one who knows where they are going. When you know where you are going, you no longer waste energy on what pulls you off course. You no longer spend to fill emotional emptiness. You no longer take on work just to prove your worth. You no longer throw yourself into a pace of life that drains your soul and then call it success. I am teaching you to build a life with rhythm, with rest, with preparation, and with genuine joy. Sustainability matters more than spectacle, and I am setting you on a sustainable path. I also want to touch something deeper, the fear of loss. You may think that having more will make you feel safer, but in truth, if the heart is not healed, the fear of losing can become greater than the fear of lacking. I am healing that fear in you by reminding you of this. You are not the one holding everything together by your own strength. You are walking in a covenant, not a gamble. What I give you is not to test how long you can keep it, but to walk with you as you grow. If something needs adjusting, I will speak. If something needs releasing, I will guide. You do not need to live in constant vigilance. I am not a God who watches closely just to take blessings back. I am a father, teaching you how to use what has been entrusted to you, my beloved child. When I expand your life, I do not only add, I also refine. Some relationships may naturally shift in distance. Some conversations may no longer hold the same appeal. Some things that once excited you may begin to feel flat. Do not panic. This is not loss. It is purification. I am clearing space so what truly fits can take its place. If you try to hold on to everything out of fear of emptiness, you will choke the new flow. But if you trust me and allow me to arrange things, you will see new connections healthier, deeper emerge at the right time. Remember, this true wealth is not found only in what can be measured. There are seasons when I give you finances, and there are seasons when I give you wisdom to avoid decisions that could cost you far more than you realize. There are seasons when I open opportunities, and there are seasons when I close doors to protect you from what you are not yet ready for. All of this is provision. If you look only at what is added, you will miss what is withheld from you in love. You are no longer someone swept along by life. You are learning to walk with my current. This current does not push you forward in panic. It lifts you and carries you with a steady rhythm. You do not need to move faster than others. You only need to walk at your own pace with me. When you do, you will not only arrive, you will arrive without losing your soul along the way. You are not entering this season because you are better than others, but because you allowed me to shape you, heal you, and redefine you. And because you have done this, I can entrust you with more, not to burden you, but to place you rightly as an heir who knows how to steward, how to listen, and how to remain in my presence. If you are willing, I will continue to lead you deeper, where what I have prepared will begin to show itself more clearly in the next steps. What once defined you in earlier seasons, constant anxiety, the sense that you had to manage everything yourself, the fear that if you let go everything would collapse, has completed its role. These are no longer your guides. I am placing in your hands a new awareness, deeper, quieter, yet stronger. You are not walking alone, and you do not need to hold everything together by your own strength. As this awareness takes root, you will find yourself walking differently, not because you are forcing change, but because you have been changed. I want you to look at your journey without judgment. You once made decisions driven by fear, choices shaped by pressure, moments when you said yes while your heart was exhausted. I do not bring these up to accuse you, but to help you see this clearly. You survived those seasons, not because you were stronger than others, but because I was there, carrying you step by step. Recognizing this will release you from an invisible burden, the burden of taking pride in endless endurance. I do not glorify unending strain. I honor trust that leads to freedom. And it is that freedom I am building as the foundation for you in this season, my beloved child. When I speak of increase, I am not speaking only of numbers or resources. I am speaking of inner expansion, the ability to receive without panic, to give without depletion, to decide without pressure. These capacities do not appear overnight. They are formed each time you choose trust over worry, listening over reaction, staying over giving up. Now, those choices are becoming your new instincts. You no longer have to remind yourself, do not be afraid as often. Calm comes more naturally. You no longer strain to maintain an image. You are becoming more real. This is the sign of deep maturity, quiet, but enduring. Pay attention to how you now perceive your own worth. In the past, you may have unconsciously measured your value by usefulness, by necessity, or by recognition. But I am leading you onto a different foundation. You have value before you accomplish anything. When you live from this place, much pressure falls away. You no longer work to be loved. You work from being loved. This difference changes everything. It changes how you collaborate, how you lead, how you serve, and how you rest. You will no longer fear that slowing down means being left behind. You know you are held in my hands and my hands do not slip. I want you to prepare for this reality when you no longer live in a mindset of lack. You will begin to see more clearly what has been draining your energy. It may be conversations that repeat themselves and lead nowhere. It may be a concern if you carry out a habit rather than calling. It may be expectations you have placed on yourself that I never required. Do not panic when you recognize these things. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. I am not forcing you to cut everything off immediately. I am simply inviting you to place these things before me and allow me to show you what to keep, what to adjust, and what to release. When you release under my guidance, you will not feel loss, you will feel lighter. Look ahead with a new clarity. The future no longer appears as a series of problems you must solve before a deadline. It begins to appear as a journey where each step has enough light for that step alone. I do not promise to show you the entire path, but I promise to give you enough light so you will not be lost. And enough light is all you need to walk in peace. When you accept this, you will stop forcing yourself to know everything in advance. You will learn to ask the right questions instead of demanding all the answers. And in that humility, I will lead you farther than you expect. The steadiness I am building in you is not meant to close your heart. On the contrary, it enables you to open your heart in the right way. You will no longer open yourself because you need to be filled, but because you have something good to share. You will no longer give in order to be recognized, but because you are being led. Giving in this way does not empty you, it brings you alive, because it flows from a source that does not run dry. When you give from a place of fullness, you will not resent it when others do not respond as you hoped. You will be freer in how you love and serve. Remember this, not all stability comes from everything standing still. There is a dynamic stability in motion, where you continue to change, to grow, to face what is new. Yet your heart no longer wavers. I am bringing you into this kind of stability. It allows you to be flexible without losing direction, to adapt without losing identity. When you live in this stability, you will not fear the changes ahead. You will welcome them as a natural part of the journey, knowing that I have already gone before you. You are no longer led by fear of lack, nor pulled by the lure of excess. You are being led by presence, and that presence will continue to shape every step you take, every decision you make, everything you hold, and everything you release. I did not bring you here to leave you to figure it out on your own. I brought you here so you could learn to walk with me in a relationship that is more mature, deeper, and freer. My child, I am leading you into this final stretch like one who guides you across the last bridge before reaching the land you once saw from a distance during your weary days. But understand this, the final stretch does not mean the end of the journey. It means the end of an old cycle, an old way of living, an old self that had to strain just to survive. And here, I am not only giving you what you have been waiting for, I am giving you a new foundation, so you do not fall back into old patterns when life begins to brighten. Many people ask only for outward change, but when they step into something new, they still carry the shadow of fear, of scarcity habits, of defensive thinking. I do not want you to live with that shadow anymore. I want you to walk as someone who has been set free, as someone who knows where they belong, and as someone who no longer needs to ask life for permission to be at peace. Listen to me with your whole heart, because this truth will carry you in the days ahead. What I am doing for you is not a stroke of luck. It is an ordered arrangement. I am resetting your life according to my rhythm, so that what comes will not only bring momentary relief, but will become the foundation for a sustainable season. You will begin to realize that provision is no longer something you must chase like a thirsty person chasing raindrops, but a current you walk with when you are in the right position. And that position is not a place on a map, it is the posture of your heart, a heart that knows how to lean, how to listen, how to discern, and how to rest. When your heart is in the right place, your decisions will no longer be driven by panic. You will stop grabbing at everything out of fear of lack. You will stop forcing yourself to please everyone, because you are already full in my regard. That fullness will free you from invisible races. In this stage, I place into your hands a guiding principle to help you keep what I give. Do not trade peace for speed. There will be days when things open faster than you expected. There will be moments when opportunities come rapidly. Invitations multiply, and doors you knocked on for a long time suddenly begin to open. When that happens, it is easy to be swept into the feeling that you must seize everything quickly, act immediately, and move faster to hold on. But my child, I did not remove you from an old burden only to place you under a new one called hurry. What belongs to you will not slip from your hands because you pause to ask me. What I have prepared does not need your frantic effort to prove itself. It needs your awareness to step rightly. The peace I give will be your confirmation. If something pulls you into tension, pressure, and causes you to lose your breath, pause, not because you are afraid, but because you are wise enough not to follow the noise. I want to heal at the root, a habit you once carried, the habit of self-condemnation when things are not perfect. You once believed you had to do better to deserve good things. You questioned yourself, am I good enough? Did I ruin this? Do I deserve this? I tell you, you receive not because you are perfect, but because I am faithful. You step into what is new not because you have never failed, but because I have the power to transform you, and I have chosen you. If you continue to carry self-condemnation, you will turn blessing into pressure. You will receive but not allow yourself to enjoy. You will have and still fear losing. You will walk into the light yet live as though you are still in darkness. I do not want that for you. I want you to learn how to live as someone truly loved, truly supported, truly led. When you make a small mistake, you do not need to collapse. When you do not know, you do not need to be ashamed. You only need to return to me, adjust, and move forward. This is the maturity I am building in you, not the maturity of someone who never stumbles, but the maturity of someone who knows how to rise without losing dignity. Remember this, my ultimate purpose is not only for you to have more, but for you to become a source of good. You have lived through enough seasons of lack for your heart to learn compassion. But now, I do not want your mercy to become something others exploit, nor your generosity to become a way of seeking approval. I will teach you how to give with clarity, to give without being manipulated, to help without losing boundaries, to open your hands without emptying yourself. You will learn to say, I can, when I prompt you, and to say, I am not called to this when I warn you. You are not responsible for carrying every need. You are responsible for obedience. When you obey, my current flows through you in the right way. It does not drain you. It makes you alive. I will make you someone who knows how to sow in the right place, at the right time, with the right heart. And when you sow under my guidance, you will see that what you give does not disappear. It returns in forms you did not expect, because I am the one who multiplies what is placed in my hands. Now, as you stand at this threshold, I want you to hold in your heart a simple but powerful assurance. You no longer belong to the old cycle. You no longer belong to sleepless nights spent fearing tomorrow. You no longer belong to the feeling of having to manage everything as if no one sees you. You no longer belong to the shame of comparing yourself to others. I have pulled you out of those definitions. And when I pulled you out, I did not leave you empty. I placed within you a new identity. You are one who is led by me, guarded by me, taught by me, and provided for by me in the right timing. Walk in that identity. Do not live like the old self just because old memories still knock from time to time. Memories may knock, but you do not have to invite them into the house anymore. Your home now is the peace I give. Your home now is the trust I am building. Your home now is the new rhythm I am setting. So walk on with me as someone who has learned how to remain. Remain not only when you lack, but also when you begin to have enough. Remain not only when you need help, but also when you are capable. Remain not only when you are weak, but also when you are lifted up. For it is precisely when you are lifted that you most need to remain, so you are not swept away by noise, not dazzled by appearances, and do not lose what is most precious, my presence within you. I will continue to lead you step by step, and what I have begun will not stop halfway. My beloved child, I lead you not to increase your expectations, but to strengthen your steadiness. For when you have come close to completing a major cycle of transformation, the greatest danger is no longer lack or failure, but forgetting where you were brought out from and why I led you along this path. Some people go very far but lose their alertness near the end, and they fall back into old reflexes even though circumstances have changed. I do not want that for you. I want you to carry discernment like a lamp that does not go out, so that no matter how bright the external light becomes, you can still see each step you take clearly. The stability I am building in you is not stillness. It is the ability to keep balance while everything is in motion. The life ahead of you will not be a perfectly calm lake. There will be change. There will be new things. There will be seasons that require adjustment. But here is the difference. You are no longer ruled by those changes. You no longer panic every time a plan needs revision. You no longer believe that every adjustment means you were completely wrong. You will learn how to adjust without denying yourself, how to adapt without losing direction. That is the sign of a life that has matured in me. Understand this when I say you have stepped onto a new foundation. It does not mean every question disappears, but the way you face questions has changed. You no longer ask in desperation, you ask in trust. You no longer ask to accuse me, you ask to understand my leading. And I am not threatened by your questions. I simply do not want you to let questions become chains. When you ask questions while remaining in my presence, the questions themselves become doors to new wisdom. But if you let questions pull you away from me, you will feel lost even while standing among good things. Remember this principle. It will protect you in the years to come. Do not let outcomes become the source of your identity. When I begin to make things more visible in your life, people will look at results and form judgments. Some will praise. Some will be surprised. Some will doubt. If you allow those reactions to shape you, you will quickly fall into a new cycle of pressure, the pressure to maintain an image, to sustain performance, to prove that you deserve what you have. I did not call you to live under human scrutiny. I called you to live before me. When you hold to this, you will work with freedom. You will succeed without arrogance. And if you stumble at times, you will not collapse. For your identity does not rest on how well you perform, but on the fact that you belong to me. In this season, I will often lead you through very gentle promptings. There will be fewer loud echoes, fewer overwhelming signs. You are mature enough now to hear whispers. Sometimes it will be a quiet unease when you are about to step in a certain direction. Sometimes it will be an unexpected peace when you choose a slower path. Do not dismiss these signals. They are how I protect you from turns that would drain you. When you learn to honor small promptings, you will avoid painful lessons you no longer need to learn. Also remember, this rest is not a reward for those who have finished everything. It is part of a healthy rhythm. Before, you may have allowed yourself to rest only when everything was resolved, when all tasks were complete, when nothing remained to worry about. But I am teaching you a different way of living rest to keep your heart clear, to avoid being swept away, to keep decisions from being made out of exhaustion. When you allow yourself to rest at the right time, you are declaring that you trust me to work even when you pause. That is a very practical act of faith, and it is often in those spaces of rest that I arrange what you cannot arrange by effort alone. Prepare to become a place of support for others in a very natural way, not because you teach, not because you advise constantly, but because your presence will be less tense, your words less hurried, your reactions less defensive. Others will sense that being near you allows them to breathe more easily. This is not a skill you learned, it is the result of peace taking root. But I remind you, do not turn this into pressure to always be strong. You are still allowed to be tired. You are still allowed to need support. You give best when you do not forget that you, too, are someone who receives. I want you to look back over your entire journey with new understanding. The days you thought you were being slowed down were the days I was deepening your roots. The times you did not understand why doors closed were the times I was protecting you from what was not yet right. The seasons of waiting were the seasons I was aligning things so you would not receive good things at the wrong time. When you look back through this light, you will no longer grieve what did not happen. Your heart will feel lighter, because you will know that even what did not happen was still within my leading. I do not withdraw my hand when you begin to stand firm. I do not step back when you begin to mature. I do not hand you over to life and then watch from a distance. I am still here, still observing, still adjusting, still supporting. The difference is that you have learned to recognize me in the small things. I no longer need to shake the heavens for you to believe. You have learned to walk in the light sufficient for each step, and that light will not go out. You do not need to shrink back when you find yourself being lifted. You do not need to doubt when things begin to improve. You are allowed to remain in peace, to remain in guidance, to remain in the new identity I have given you. And from that place, you will continue to walk, not loudly, not anxiously, but surely, deeply, and more freely than ever. I have led you here, and I will continue to walk with you until everything I have ordained is fully revealed in your life. My child, I bring you to this final passage not as one who closes a book and sets it aside, but as one who stands still for a long moment so you can recognize where you are. Some endings are not meant to close anything, but to engrave a truth you will carry forward. And this is the truth: you are no longer the person who began this journey with the same heart, the same perspective, the same fears. You have been led through layer after layer, level after level, through quiet movements you yourself did not always notice. But I noticed. I knew. I was there in every step you took, even the steps you thought were missteps. What I have done within you matters just as much as what I am doing and will do for you. For if your life changed only on the outside while your inner world still trembled, still defended, still feared, you would soon return to old cycles. But I did not work halfway. I went to the root, to the place where you once believed you had to endure alone, manage alone, prove yourself alone. I loosened the invisible cords that bound you to scarcity, not only a lack of money, but a lack of safety, a lack of trust, a lack of being supported. And as those cords were released, you began to breathe differently, think differently, walk differently, even when you could not name what had changed. Carry this understanding with you. As you move forward, you do not need to return to survival mode whenever a new challenge appears. Challenges will come, but you no longer face them with familiar fear. You have learned to pause, to listen, to discern, and to move forward in peace. This does not make you slower, it makes you more precise. You are no longer driven by reflex, you are led. And that leading is not loud or showy, it is steady and trustworthy. You do not need to see everything in order to believe. You have learned to believe enough to take the next step. You do not need to hold on to every good thing with tension. What I give does not need to be protected by anxiety. If you grip out of fear of loss, that fear itself will weary you. But if you hold through connection with me, your heart will feel light even as responsibility increases. I do not give to test your endurance. I give so you may learn to live in a more mature relationship with me, one where you no longer ask, "Am I enough?" but begin to ask, "Who am I walking with?" When you know you are walking with me, many questions settle on their own. Understand that the road ahead is not a solitary one. What I have done in you will naturally spread not through loud words, but through a steady presence. You will find yourself becoming a place others can lean on without being drained. You will find yourself able to listen without needing to fix everything. You will find yourself able to share without feeling you must sacrifice yourself. This is not a skill you learned, it is the fruit of healing that has taken place. But remember, do not turn this into an obligation. You are not required to always be strong. You are allowed to rest, to need support, to return to me whenever you need. The one who knows how to return is not weak, that one knows their source. Do not let memories of past seasons pull you back into old reflexes. Memories may knock, reminding you of days of lack, of worry, of moments when you had to shrink yourself just to survive. Even so, memories no longer have authority over you. You can look back without living there again. You can remember without returning. I brought you out of that place, and I did not bring you out to leave you wandering. I have set you on a new path, where each step is no longer defined by fear, but by a trust that continues to grow. From here on, you do not need a grand sign to know I am still with you. You will recognize me in very small things, in a timely decision, in an unexplainable peace, in the moment you choose not to react as you once did. Do not dismiss these things. This is how I walk with you in a mature relationship. I do not always need to shake the heavens for you to know I am present. You have learned to recognize me in whispers, and that is a great gift. Now, I want you to carry one final affirmation, not as words to recite, but as a truth to live by. You are not abandoned in times of transition. The spaces where things are not yet clear, not yet stable, not yet finished as you might wish, these are not voids. They are spaces I use to teach you how to remain, how to trust, how to walk without needing everything to be perfect. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly where you need to be for the next step. Because I have led you here, I do not end with a new promise. Because everything I have spoken to you from the beginning is not fragmented. It is one continuous flow, and that flow does not stop here. It continues in how you live, how you choose, how you rest, how you give, and how you return to me. You do not need to do anything special to keep this. You only need to continue remaining in guidance, in listening, in the trust that has been formed within you. This is the mark of one no longer driven by fear of lack, no longer pushed by hurry, no longer bound by old definitions. You move forward as one who has learned to remain in my presence quiet, steady, and free. I have led you here. I am walking with you, and I will continue until everything I have sown in you bears fruit in its proper season, so that you will know that not a single step of this journey was meaningless. Thank you for listening to today's message. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue receiving words of life together. Build a strong faith and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.